In today's show, the Blazers get a real road win in Memphis. And what's that? Dame back. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazer reporter Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts, and now also on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast and you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go ahead and do that now. Just go to YouTube and subscribe. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers by 2022. That's 2,000 subscribers by New Year's, and we can only do it with your help. So if you're listening, please go and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that button. Got a fun show for you today. The Blazers had a big win on Friday and followed that up with a road win, just their second of the season, a big win in Memphis on Sunday evening. We're going to talk a little bit about both those games, and dare I say, Dame back, the man we both know and love, Damian Lillard, like the Damian Lillard we remember, the guy who's like one of the best players in the NBA. Looks like that guy has returned to the Blazers lineup. And then we'll close the show with a little bit update on the Dameless minutes. It's going to be the key to this whole stretch, and it in many ways fueled the Blazers win over Memphis. We're going to do the fastest recap in the West, super duper fast for the Charlotte Hornets game. The Blazers beat the Hornets on Friday night, 125-116 to snap a 7-game losing streak, a much needed win. They scored 81 points in the first half, just 44 after halftime, and held on, kind of a shaky close to the game. Dame had 43 points and 8 assists in that one. Ben McLemore came off the bench and hit 8 3-pointers, including 7 in the first half, 6 in the second quarter. The almost matching Dame's record for most 3-pointers in a quarter. The Blazers were never going to lose if Ben McLemore hits 8 threes. They didn't lose that game. 28 off the bench. He was a monster. They win 125-116 in a game where the Hornets just could not stop them in that first half. 81 points. Monster game. And Dame was a monster early and a monster late. He was the best player on the court. 43, and it was the first game that he looked like Dame. That's a big win. They needed it. Get the pressure, get the stink of the 7-game losing streak. It was wearing on him. There was just, every time we talked to him post-game after every loss, you could tell that it was just the losses were mounting and piling up on these guys. They get a win that they really, really needed, and then they move on. They go on this little 2-game road trip. Starts Sunday in Memphis, and then they play Tuesday in New Orleans before they head back home. We'll see whether they play Tuesday and whether they play Thursday. But for right now, the New Orleans Pelicans and Brooklyn Nets are on the schedule. But the Blazers get a real win. They get a real win over the Memphis Grizzlies, a team that had been on a tear, 10-1 without Ja Morant, and had recently beaten the Blazers. Kind of kick their teeth in a little bit in the fourth quarter, and then late third and early fourth to win a game in Portland last week. So get a little revenge from that game. Let's go fastest recap in the West. A real recap of this one. Blazers win 105-100. They're down 32-28 after one, and they trail by 11 in the first quarter. Dame was really good early, but then it wasn't the defense wasn't there with them, and the non-Dames really didn't get it going. But the Blazers hung in there, only down 4 after the end of the first quarter, and only down 1 at halftime. They were in this game, but they couldn't get all the way over the top. In fact, in the third quarter, they trailed by as many as 9 points. It looks like, again, this game was slipping away, but Norman Powell, bang, to use my Mike Breen impression, hits 2 huge threes. He had 13 points in that third period, and the Blazers go into the fourth quarter only down 80-77. All things considered, in a really good spot. And, all they did in the fourth quarter was hold Memphis to 20 points on 5 of 20 shooting and come away with a huge 105-100 win. Just a really awesome late game performance from a team that desperately needed to just win a fourth quarter. And they won it behind Norman Powell's 28 points. They won it behind Damian Lillard, 32 points and 5 dimes. They won it behind Nassir Little, who had a really nice night, 12 points, 9 boards, 3 assists. Nas has had 5 and now 3 assists. He's had 8 assists in the last 2 games. Him as a playmaker, him as a driver, guy who gets into the paint and then finds people on the opposite side. That's really good stuff from Nassir Little. You love to see the growth. They won it because because Robert Covington had 13 points, 4 blocks, a steal to go with 8 rebounds. He hit 3 threes. He was huge. And they won it because Anfernee Simons had 9 points. That doesn't seem like a lot, but they were crucial. More on that later in the show. They held off Dillon Brooks, who hounded Damian Lillard all night and finished with 37. But Brooks didn't get much help. Steven Adams 13, Jaren Jackson 11, Kyle Anderson 11 off the bench, Desmond Bane 9 points, 1 of 8 from 3. That's your fastest recap in the West. The Blazers win 105-100. Just a monster game that they absolutely needed. Just a game they absolutely needed. Beating Charlotte, the worst defensive team in the league, the team with the worst defensive rating in the NBA, when Dame has 43, that feels good, right? You needed a win. They desperately needed it. They had been in the game against Phoenix and had let it slip away late, missing free throws and not able to stop the Chris Paul pick and roll actions down the stretch. They were in the game competitive against Memphis, and then like a 26-4 run, the Grizzlies rip off the end of the third and to begin the fourth, and the game's just over. They're right there, but there's these little stretches where the thing that they're sort of their bugaboos all season is just consistency. And this was a night where the Blazers weren't like super consistent, right? This wasn't like the most impressive performance you'll ever see. They had 20 turnovers. They didn't shoot it particularly well from three, just 34% from deep, but they pull out a win when it mattered, and they won in crunch time. So many of these games lately they've either just like their Memphis matchup earlier this week or last week, they didn't get to crunch time because they blew it beforehand. The bench couldn't sustain with Dame out. In the Phoenix game, they just missing free throws and not able to get enough stops in crunch time. Here we go. You get like real clutch moments, and twice Dame drives and finds Norm, once for a three and then one for a step in two. The step in two put the Blazers up 4 with a minute left, and it's just a huge bucket from Norman Powell and a great pass from Dame. One of the big adjustments here was Dame had 17 in the first half, and Memphis started sending 2 guys at him. And it took a while for the Blazers to kind of figure out what they wanted to do, and they didn't exclusively go to this, but a bunch down the stretch. One thing I noticed, and I thought it was a really good tactical decision, was they stopped setting the screen with Yusuf Nurkic. If they put Yusuf Nurkic in the screen, then Steven Adams is able to trap. He's so big and kind of just like good at corralling and playing center field and just kind of catching Dame and making it hard and then recovering, and also cutting off that quick entry to Nurk. That running those pick and rolls with Nurk, kind of the Blazers' bread and butter, what Dame wants to do basically every time down the floor. What he'd prefer to do is run a 1-5 pick and roll and go to work against the center. The way they were sending double teams, the way they were loading up on help, that was a problem. And the Blazers went away from that, and they started running more just like side-to-side action to get either Robert Covington or some guard screens with Anfernee Simons or Norman Powell in the action with Dame, and just letting Dame go one-on-one, just letting him blow past people. Don't bring a screen. Just let him, if he's going to have his explosiveness back, if he's going to be what Dame can be, which is like someone who's unguardable one-on-one, don't invite that double team, and certainly don't invite a double team from someone who's really good at it, like Steven Adams. That was like a really nice tactical change down the stretch. Of 3 of the last 4 possessions, that's what they went to. And twice Dame attacks, gets down the left side. The defense comes all the way over. He draws so much attention, and he finds Norm on the opposite side. 2 really good passes. Dame is a really he's a really good cross court passer. He's not an elite interior passer like in small spaces, but those cross court passes where he's driving and throwing opposite his body, he can deliver those on the money, and he did 2 huge ones to Norman Powell to steal this game. This was the first game where, the 43 against Charlotte, I said, that's Dame. Like that's the dude I remember. That's the dude I know. But to do this tonight against Memphis with the type of pressure he got and the type of attention he got from Dillon Brooks and that physicality and all those things, and to, Dame's had some big scoring nights since he's come back from sitting out to sort of get a cortisone shot and rest his ab. Like, he's had big scoring nights, but the efficiency is there, the decision making is there. He's 9 for 19 tonight. It isn't like a crazy game, but we're talking one shot, and he shoots 50% from the floor. He was good, and if you watched it, he was good, and he was good against a team that was absolutely geared up, queued up, all those things to stop him. So let's celebrate Dame a little bit in the second period, in the second segment. Let's talk about Dame. Who's back? He's back. Let's give Dame the respect that he deserves, or at least that maybe after a recent game he was asking for. But before we do that, let me tell you about Truebill. It's the new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions that you don't need or you don't want, or just that you simply forgot about. On average, people save up to $720 a year with Truebill. And companies make subscriptions hard to cancel, so Truebill is here to make it incredibly simple. All you do is link your accounts, and Truebill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. And your Truebill concierge is there when you need to cancel those unwanted subscriptions so you don't have to. It's one tap to cancel them. If it's not one tap, you're paying for a service, so someone else does the taps for you. Never more than one tap. I use Truebill. I went to truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. I got a free trial. I checked out the service. From the time I downloaded the app to the time I had my eyeballs on all of my subscriptions, probably took 10 minutes, maybe, no more than 15. Like, it was very, very fast, very, very easy. And then I was able to quickly see all the things I'm paying for on a monthly basis, decide what I want to keep, decide what I don't want to keep, and go from there. And Truebill made it super easy, and they can make it super easy for you. So don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now, truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. It could save you thousands a year. That's truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. All right. So we talked the win over the Charlotte Hornets. A nice game where the Blazers, the LaMelo Ball went off, but no one else in the Hornets really got going. The Grizzlies playing without Ja Morant, but they've been rolling without Ja Morant. Dillon Brooks goes off. No one else could really get rolling. But this isn't really about sort of the Blazers shutting down the Gordon Hayward, Jaren Jacksons of the world. This is about the plan. The Blazers' plan is so simple. There's a lot of complexities and intricacies, and I feel like I try to weave those in here, right? But the headline, and then the subhead, and then the first graph, and then like the third graph are Damian Lillard kicks ass. That's the plan. This whole machine, everything is just set up for Dame to be one of the 10 best players in the league, and then everything flows from that because Dame draws attention and then other guys get open. Or Dame is so terrifying and so hot that either right out of the gates the defense shifts over to him, or he commands so much defense when it matters, like so much defensive attention when it matters, that you're getting easy shots in crunch time. Or even more simple than that, Dame is just awesome and he makes a bunch of shots. And Dame is back. I was hesitant to do this, I'm gonna tell y'all, because even when Dame returned from, he sits out 5 games with resting his abdomen and getting a cortisone shot and trying to get his body right. He's been dealing with this ab strain for, since 2017 on and off. He's been really open about that. It's not a secret. I've seen some reporting about that. Dame told us that, right? That he's dealt with this sort of ab issue for years, and dealt with it in the Olympics, comes back, and it's clearly bothering this year. He's just clearly not right. So he takes this time off and gets a cortisone shot, and he doesn't come back and he's like a monster immediately, right? Like, he doesn't come back and look exactly like Dame from the get-go. In fact, he had some inefficient nights. He had some nights where you're just like, you were kind of waiting for it to come, as waiting for the explosion, waiting for that sort of loud, big old game from Dame, and then he comes back from from that injury, from that rest, and he doesn't really have it. 5 of 17 against Minnesota in a loss, 11 of 31 against Phoenix, 6 of 21 against Memphis. Like, that isn't quite the Dame And then he has, the worst defense in the league, but he has this just monster game. 12 of 19, 6 of 11 from 3, gets to the free throw line 14 times. It's what superstars do. 43 points and 8 dimes. And it's like, okay, that was the Hornets, but he looks like Damian Lillard. Like, that looks like the Dame that looks like the Dame that the Blazers banked on. The Blazers have a lot of problems. Like, the roster doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. The defense hasn't taken that step forward. They've had some health issues. They have problems, right? Like, this doesn't fix it. But the problem that was sort of unknowable was like, well, they had one of the 10 best players in the league on the roster, and where's that dude? Dame shows up against Charlotte, 43 on 12 of 19. He had in his first 23 minutes on the court, he had more than 30 points. Like, he's played half a game and he's already got 30. It's like, oh, this dude, right? Like, he doesn't fix the problems, but he makes all of the other solutions easier. He is the biggest thing to check. And then but it's the Hornets. It's the worst defense in the league. It's all of these things, right? And 43 is a massive night. I do not want to discount that. 12 of 19, 43 on 12 of 19 is a massive night, right? Like, but we're 30 games into this thing, right? So I'm not going to say one game is like Dame back, even though I've kind of been waiting for the Dame back thing for like since early in the season when he was struggling. I was just waiting for it to happen and we could have this, and then it didn't happen. I'm getting nervous, and I'm like, maybe this dude just can't get physically right. And like, that's the bummer part of sports. Sometimes your body just doesn't agree. And he's like, shooting below 30%. Him and Jordan Clarkson are the two most inefficient shooters in the league. It's like, it's Dame, Jordan Clarkson, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker are the three most inefficient shooters in the league. Jordan Clarkson, sixth man of the year, bummer. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, young guy getting his first real shot. Damian Lillard, Hall of Famer. Like, one of these things is not like the other. They needed him to be better. So you get that 43 in Charlotte. You're starting to feel good. I'm starting to be like, okay. He kind of crowed a little bit in the post-game press conference. Put some respect on my name. Don't disrespect me when I'm struggling. Blah 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 blah. But without even commenting on the disrespect part, like just acknowledging that he wants some respect. He hadn't been himself. The reason why people were chirping or people were talking is Dame hadn't been himself. And then he comes tonight, and he was damn good again. His first time all season, he's had back-to-back 30-point games. 32 points on 9 of 19. He's getting absolutely hounded. Gets himself to the free throw line 12 times. 5 assists, 5 rebounds. But it was more about... it was more like the box score does it justice, because 32 on 9 of 19 is a good night, right? Like, he didn't have a perfect shooting night from 3 of 9. But again, we're talking one shot. 4 of 9 is like that's fine. That's a fine night from deep, right? So it's, but when you see it, when you really see it, like 17 in that first half, and the Blazers needed it, right? Because they were struggling early, and then and the bench actually came and played well. More on that in a moment. But like, they needed his buckets, they needed his offense, and he was there, and he was forceful, and he was making them pay for every mistake they sort of made. He was cutting back door against the sort of top locking defense when you're on. Dylan Brooks is staying between Dame and the 3-point line as opposed to Dame in the basket. There's your top locking for you. Like, cutting back door. He did it twice. Like, he was relocating off screens and handoffs. He pulled into like on pull-ups when Steven Adams didn't get high enough on the screen. Like, this was Dame being forceful. 17 in the first half. Putting the fear, right? Putting the fear. And this was before, Norman Powell had a big night, but he had 18 in the second half. Like, he didn't really get going in that first half. It was mostly Rocco was the offensive support. And then in the second half, when they needed him, makes 2 plays, and his 2 biggest plays of the game were drives to draw the defense and kicks. Like, he drew a crucial foul to put the Blazers up from getting fouled on a 3-pointer, right? But like, that's Norman Powell drives, Dame gets it, Dylan Brooks closes out too hard, and Dame gets fouled. Like, that is just like being a scary shooter. But the like really crucial, and that was kind of a mistake by Brooks, but like the really crucial moments are those 2 assists to Norm. Just incredibly, just Dame saying, I'm gonna go left and you can't stop me. I am who I am. Good luck. Dame back. I've been waiting for it. But 2 nights in a row where he looks like himself, and he's just moving better, and you can see it, creating more separation on the outside, able to cut. His first dunk of the season comes against Charlotte. It's the little things. You see the little things. Like, he is still Dame. He's deliberate. He pounds the ball. He's gonna waste some possessions and burn some possessions by being stubborn and trying to get into step backs and trying to run a pick and roll that just isn't materializing. But he's also Dame. And so he's going to relentlessly punish you if you mess with him. And he's hit, 9 threes in his last 2 games. He's 43 and then 32. I've been waiting for it, and I'm gonna say it. Dame back. So if it doesn't go well, who to blame. But this is the first 2 games where I'd say there's 2 games in a row where he looked like himself. Let's hope that he stays healthy and that Dame's back for real, because I'm calling it. I'm pointing the flag. Dame back. So go ahead and celebrate. Welcome back, Damian Lillard. We're happy to have you over here at Locked On Blazers. We've been waiting for it. Welcome back, Damian Lamont, Ollie Lillard Sr. Straight out of East Oakland. Real Brookfield, Oakland to Ogden, Utah, to Oregon, straight out of Westland, all of his monikers, Dame Dollar, among others. Dame back. All right, let's come back in the second segment and talk about those minutes when Dame wasn't back. Those Dameless minutes, they have defined the last two wins. They're going to define all of the games when before CJ gets back or before they make a trade to sort of rebalance this roster. It'll still matter even if they rebalance this roster. It'll still matter when CJ's back. When Dame's on the bench, when the superstar's on the bench, the Blazers games are often defined, and it was absolutely the case Sunday in Memphis. In many ways, it was the case on Friday against the Hornets. Let's talk about that to close out the show. But before we do that, let's talk about Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar on the market. They're not messing around, they're just making delicious bars. I've been a fan of Built Bars for a long time. My personal favorites are peanut butter brownie and cookies and cream, but I've tried darn near all of them. Coconut brownie puff, I believe is what it is, or brownie coconut puff. That's just an all-time great flavor right there. Limited time, whenever they have it, you should buy it. Strawberry puff has got a little, it's a little like more fluffy, marshmallowy strawberry flavor. Fantastic. Mint brownie, fantastic. Salted caramel, fantastic. I think the straight up raspberry one is pretty darn good too. Whatever your flavor palette is, you'll find something you like with Built Bar. Plus, they all got 17 to 18 grams of protein, 130 to 180 calories, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and no more than 5 grams of net carbs. All tasty, all healthy. Go get yourself some. Go to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your next order. That is 15% off when you use the promo code LOCKED15 at Built.com. Today's show is also brought to you by BetOnline.ag, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. I'm talking all sports. Basketball season heading into the Christmas Day showcase and the heart of the regular season. Football season winding down the regular season, or the NFL winding down the regular season heading into the playoffs. College football bowl game season is upon us, and they got lines and props and odds on all of those games, plus more: hockey, soccer, combat sports. You can even play your favorite Vegas casino game. So go to betonline.ag, put in the promo code Locked On right now. You'll get a 50% welcome bonus when you're making your first deposit. That's promo code Locked On for 50% welcome bonus at betonline.ag, where the game starts. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. Still listen to Locked On Blazers. Talk about the Blazers' win over the Hornets. We went a little bit deeper on the Blazers' win over the Grizzlies on Sunday night. We declared the Dame back. But now we got to talk about the real reason the Blazers won on Sunday night. It was the Dameless minutes, a stat we track all the time here, and crucially important. When the Blazers lost to the Memphis Grizzlies last week, they got shellacked in the Dameless minutes. He sat for 10 minutes and they were outscored by 23 points. It didn't matter that he had an inefficient night. They were good when he was on the floor, and he sat for 10 minutes, including a 5-minute stretch in the second half, and the Blazers just fell out the damn boat, hit the iceberg and drowned. Like that was it. It wasn't the only reason, but by the time Dame was back in the game, they had gone from leading to being in scramble mode and trailing, and it was over. These are crucially important minutes. Any team is best when their best players are on the floor, but for so long, the Blazers have had a real imbalance where in the minutes where they aren't playing their top guy, and where they've had trouble for years of finding a real balance. And quite frankly, I think Chauncey Billups admitted as much again on Sunday night against the Grizzlies when he only played 8 guys. He shortened his bench. Dennis Smith Jr. was available in this game, but he didn't play. And the Blazers just had 3 guys off the bench: Covington, McLemore, and Anfernee Simons. There was no Trendon Watford cameo. They didn't go with Dennis Smith Jr. They just Chauncey these are our 8 dudes. We're gonna roll with them. McLemore only played 15 minutes. You kind of run up your starters, and Rocco plays 34 minutes off the bench. You got to roll with who you roll with. Nobody played, Dame played 38, but, everyone else playing, you just play your starters a bunch. You play them 34, 36 minutes and roll with it. But that means that still, if Dame plays 38 minutes, there's 10 minutes where he's not in the game. And in those 10 minutes against the Memphis Grizzlies, the Blazers were plus 12. That's the reason they won this game. Let's rewind a little bit to Charlotte. The Blazers had been so bad in that Memphis loss in the Dameless minutes. Like I said, outscored by 23 points in 10 minutes he sat, that I said, okay, this is going to be the most crucial stretch of the game. When Damian Lillard sat in the first half against the Charlotte Hornets, the Blazers bench outscored the Hornets bench by 1. They treaded water. They did what they needed to do. In the second half, The Blazers have built this huge lead. They're up 29 points. This game looks like it's going away, and Dame sits, and the Hornets outscore the Blazers by 4 points in those minutes that Dame sits to begin the fourth quarter, and it became a game that was competitive, not because of 4 points, but like it was trending in the wrong direction, and it got a little bit worse. They didn't create any separation. They let the Hornets hang around, and then they had to, there was no like crazy garbage time in a game. The Blazers were up 30, and more than the points, you just saw it. In those minutes that Dame sat, they couldn't get into any offense. It looked ugly. It looked messy. Like they were just disorganized. They're not generating clean looks when Damian Lillard is out of the game. And you could feel it. You could feel you could feel the -4 in those Dameless minutes against the Hornets. It felt much, much worse and looked much, much worse than it was. They held on and won. Ben McLemore hits a huge three from the corner and talks smack to the Hornets bench. Whatever. Like they survived because it wasn't, -4 isn't just detrimental, but you saw it. But against the Grizzlies, the Blazers turned the tides with the bench on the court. And it's not like a deep bench. When I'm saying that's why I don't use bench minutes. I'm talking Dameless minutes. You're still gonna, with these minutes, they're gonna stagger Norman Powell. So it's gonna be Ant and Norman Powell, at least until CJ gets back. So like your second and third best offensive players are going to be on the court. Neither of these dudes are point guards. They're not very good table setters, but they're really good scorers. And so like you have offense on the court when Dame's on the bench. And in the Dameless minutes in the first half, it was Robert Covington. He hit 2 huge threes, and while Dame sat for 4 minutes and 37 seconds in the first half, the Blazers outscored the Grizzlies by 6. They were down 6 when Dame went to the bench. It was tied when he got back in. Huge, crucial win. They were down 11 in the first quarter. It's looking like they might let go of the rope a little bit, or at least end up on the wrong side of this one again, because the Grizzlies are a good team and they've been playing really, really well. But they tie the game when Dame's out. Like they bring him back, and Dame gets in there, and they go into halftime still losing, but they were down 1. Like they're right in this game, right? It didn't get worse when Dame's on the bench, and that's really the crucial part of these Dameless minutes. Did it get worse? Because sometimes it can get bad in a hurry, and he's only going to sit for 5 minutes at a time, 6 minutes at a time. Like it is very small windows that you got to ask for competency, and +6 in 4 minutes and 37 seconds, crucial in the first half. Then in the second half, you go back. Dame does not play the whole third quarter. He has been, but going back to the more similar to the rotations at the beginning of the year, he checks out at about the 10-minute mark. He checked out with 1:36 left in the third quarter, and the Blazers they're in it, right? Like they're not, it's not over for them, but they're in it. And he comes back in. Dame sits till the 8:11 mark of the fourth quarter, 5 minutes and 15 seconds, like a full 5-minute rest. And during that 5 minutes, Anfernee Simons scored 7 crucial points. Like I said, Ant had 9, but 7 of them came in that stretch with Dame on the bench to open the fourth quarter. Incredibly important. Drawing some shooting fouls off the dribble, getting himself into his shots. Like Ant's best skill is that he's a one-on-one scorer, and I think sometimes he gets miscast as being like, okay, run a pick and roll, get guys set up, and his decision making, particularly when he's on the move, is not great. He's just not good at it. But he's really freaking good at scoring, and he went and got himself to the free throw line. He made his free throws, 7 incredibly crucial points in that fourth quarter stretch with Dame on the bench. Again, +6 with Dame on the bench during that fourth quarter in a 5-minute stretch. That's +12 in the game. In fact, the Blazers were -7 with Dame on the court because while he's a volume scorer and a great player, he's going against, he's going to go for the most part against Memphis's top line too, the way that it happens. And those +6 in those two stretches, +12 for the game, incredibly crucial. The Memphis Grizzlies, in the 9 minutes and 52 seconds that Damian Lillard sat out, went a cool 2 of 20 from the floor. Memphis helped, but the Blazers defense was attentive. They didn't give up a bunch of easy ones. They gave up a couple. D'Anthony Melton missed a couple easy ones, and Desmond Bane missed one, a very makeable one, but they were attentive and connected and aggressive enough on defense to be competitive in this game. They survive those minutes. They win the Dameless minutes by 12. They win the game by 5. And that's it. That's going to be what it takes. It's very little windows with a very slim margin for error. But if you believe, like I believe, that Damian Lillard looks like he's back, then these little 5-minute stretches when he sits will determine most games until CJ McCollum gets back or until a bigger trade happens or whatever it looks like. But for now, with this group as constructed, the Dameless minutes will be defining. And on Sunday in Memphis, the Dameless minutes define this game. They lose this game for sure without those minutes. They just straight up do not win this game without those two stretches to begin the second quarter and then end the third and begin the fourth quarter. It was those were the most important 9 minutes and 52 seconds of the game. And when Damian Lillard was a darn superstar when he was on the court, you win those minutes without him, you win a basketball game. That's the math. It's as simple as that. Like I said at the top of the show, sometimes the plan is simple. Competency when Dame is out of the game, superstardom when Dame is in the game. Give yourself a chance every night. They did it on the road, and now Tuesday they head to the Pelicans, to head to New Orleans to play the Pelicans. There's been a bunch of COVID closures in the league. Like, if you follow the NBA, you know it's the unfortunate part of our world. We're not out of this yet. We're still in it, and it's impacting the league. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with the Brooklyn Nets game. I don't know what's happened to the Pelicans game. So this is your game preview of saying we'll see. Show isn't going to go anywhere regardless of what happens in these games. We'll either recap them or we'll talk about something else. But it's a daily podcast. We'll still have it for you. So make sure you are tuning in this week and telling your friends to do the same. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Go to YouTube right now and take care of that if you haven't already. Tell your friends about this podcast. They can get it wherever they already get podcasts. Just search Locked On Blazers. Will be there waiting for you. Tomorrow's show, Monday night, I will record a mailbag podcast. So if you want to get involved in that one, send me a tweet at Mike G. Rich or email me, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. Later this week, Jason Quick's going to join the show. We got a whole bunch of fun. So come back and listen to more. Appreciate you listening. Talk to you soon.